For 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has just been there. It's this absolute monument to human ambition, a structure so massive and so mysterious that, honestly, it still challenges our most advanced technology. I mean, think about it. We've walked on the moon, we've built skyscrapers that literally pierce the clouds, but could we really replicate this ancient wonder?
So let's really dive into that. That's the big question, right? We're going to explore what it would actually take to pull off this mega project today. And we're going to calculate step by step what it would truly cost to build this ancient masterpiece in the modern world.
Okay, just to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this thing, look at this comparison. The Great Pyramid weighs 6 million tons. That is 12 times heavier than the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building on the entire planet. And it sits on a base the size of 10 football fields. We are not just talking about a building here. We are talking about constructing an actual artificial mountain. But, before we even start talking about the engineering, we hit our first, and maybe our biggest, roadblock. And surprisingly, it has nothing to do with money or technology. It's all about motivation. The first question you got to ask is why? Why would we do this? The ancient Egyptians were driven by this profound, powerful religious purpose to build eternal homes for their pharaohs. In our modern practical world, just try convincing anyone to spend billions on a project with zero financial return. That's probably the first impossible task. But hey, for the sake of this explainer, let's just pretend we found a reason. All right, so assuming we've got our motivation, the real work begins. And let me tell you, before a single block is even laid, the groundwork alone is a monumental and incredibly expensive undertaking. First up, you need 13 acres of geologically solid ground, which, on the Giza Plateau, would easily run you over $100 million. Then you'd spend millions more on deep scans to make absolutely sure the bedrock can handle 6 million tons without shifting. That's a lesson they learned the hard way with the nearby Bent Pyramid, which actually started to fail because of poor ground support. After that, we'd bring in GPS-guided bulldozers to level the site to within a single millimeter of perfection. And finally, just to be safe, we'd pour a massive reinforced concrete foundation, 4 meters thick, using 500,000 tons of concrete. And there you have it. We're already at over $500 million. And we haven't even touched a single stone for the pyramid itself. This is just the cost of preparing the ground. Crazy, right? So now we need the star of the show, 2.3 million stone blocks, with many of them being about the size of an SUV. So where do we get them, and how on earth do we cut them fast enough? The ancients spent decades using simple chisels and hammers. Now, if we want to do this in just 5 years, we need a totally different approach. A single modern factory might be able to cut maybe 100 blocks a day. At that rate, it would take us 63 years. So to hit our 5-year target, we would need to run 250 industrial-grade diamond wire saws at the same time, right there at the quarry, just to turn out over 1,200 blocks every single day. The price tag for this is just staggering. The limestone and granite blocks themselves, that would run about $1.1 billion. And the electricity to power those 250 saws for 5 years, another $155 million. To put that into perspective, the total energy we'd use would be enough to power the entire country of Italy for a full day. And just like that, our bill has more than tripled. We are now well over $1.8 billion. And all we've done is prepare the site and buy the raw materials. Okay, so now we have 2.3 million freshly cut stone blocks. The problem? They're sitting in a quarry 900 kilometers away. And this kicks off what would have to be the single largest transport operation in human history. We're talking about moving 6 million tons of stone. That translates to nearly 250,000 trips for heavy-duty trucks. Which means, for 5 straight years, there would need to be a constant convoy of 500 trucks on the road at all times, day and night, just to keep up. It's an absolutely mind-boggling logistical feat to even imagine. So you add that $200 million transportation bill to the tally, and boom, our total just blew past the $2 billion mark. And we still haven't stacked a single stone. Now we get to it. We're facing the ultimate engineering challenge. How do you stack millions of these heavy blocks with millimeter precision almost 150 meters into the desert sky? So here's where we hit a real wall, and it's basically a physics problem. The taller a crane gets and the further its arm has to reach, the less weight it can actually lift. There isn't a single mobile crane on Earth that can hoist an 80-ton granite block, which is the weight of the stones above the king's chamber, all the way to the top of the pyramid. It is physically impossible with today's standard equipment.
So the solution would have to be a custom network of the world's largest tower cranes. But here's the kicker. To match the ancients' incredible precision, we're talking so tight you can't fit a credit card between the stones. These cranes would have to be painstakingly moved, re-anchored, and rebuilt higher and higher as the pyramid itself grew. Just renting and operating this specialized crane network for 5 years? That would cost another $300 million.
And of course, you need people. A lot of people. A crew of at least 3,000 skilled engineers, masons, and laborers all working around the clock. Their salaries, their insurance, and all their provisions over 5 years would add another $400 million to our rapidly growing bill.
The structure is finally up. It's complete, and it looks pretty much like the pyramid we see today. But we're not done. The ancient Egyptians added one final, absolutely brilliant touch that we just have to replicate. You see, originally, the Great Pyramid was encased in these highly polished, brilliant white limestone blocks. It would have gleamed in the sun. It would have been this shining beacon you could see for miles across the desert. Recreating this beautiful, smooth casing with 115,000 perfectly fitted blocks would be our final act of construction, costing a cool $250 million.
So, after all that, what's the grand total? Just under $3 billion. And get this, that number doesn't even include things like road taxes for all those trucks, or the cost of building a dedicated power plant, which we'd almost certainly need. For that kind of money, you could build Qatar's largest natural gas plant, or the most expensive sports stadium on Earth.
And this brings us right back to that central question. Could we build it? Yeah, theoretically we could. But would we? The answer is almost certainly no. And this quote by archaeologist Zahi Hawass just says it all. The pyramids weren't just a construction project. They were a nation-building one. The cost wasn't just in stone and labor, but in the total mobilization of an entire society. And that, perhaps, is something our modern world simply can't buy.